Oi! Well, here's your durability test. It's a new day and effectively a new buggy. In our AM-X12 review, although we went over this thing in detail, we had some problems, and primarily we had a motor heating issue. We know from the top speed runs here, 41 km/h on 2S and 55 on 3S, it's not a speed demon. It's not like the 006, which was pulling out 81 km/h on 3S, and the motor didn't quite get as hot either, which is somewhat confusing. Really noisy. I'm going to pull this apart later on. If I discover anything different, I'll let you know in a follow-up video. Remember, this is the XTKJ 006, but longer. It should be able to give us the same performance. I didn't mention this, but the rear tires are wider than the front tires, and the toe out was pretty significant, but I've made some changes. I wanted to show you a few details that I didn't include in the video. First one, and importantly, the endpoint for the throttle here, it came at 75 and I did have that at 100%. A couple of you in the comments mentioned, and even Rlaarlo got in contact with me after they saw my video and said, hey, did you turn that right up? Yeah, I did. But you might remember also I said the motor was burning hot. There was a problem of friction. Now, I've gone right over this thing. I pulled it right down. I'll show you some pictures while I talk. For a start, the mesh was not quite right and it was quite noisy. Now, it's not. The pinion was grinding up against the motor mount here, and also our mesh wasn't right. And now it is good. There's a lot of metal filing down the bottom. This pinion was back too far, so I've forced it out after loosening the grub screw. We've set the mesh properly. We've got a little bit of movement between the pinion and the spur, and we've tightened up the slipper as well. It just rolls now where it didn't do that before. I've also removed the toe out with these turnbuckles to straighten them up. I basically wanted to give this thing every chance to give us the best speed we possibly could get. Now, the other thing while we've got this thing open was I put 50,000 weight diff oil in here. It still turns, but see how it doesn't completely turn? I stiffened the rear up. The front's already just nice, but the rear was very loose, very noisy. Basically everything's been pulled down and I reassembled it bit by bit. So now it's got plenty of roll. And lastly, I stuck in those limiting screws just to drop its height a little bit. They're the droop screws. I had to supply my own. Rlaarlo tell me that they're supplying their own droop screws when everyone's orders go out. And also the battery tray. I did mention this in the video, but they're including a foam thing to lift it up. Everything should be sorted. Let's get this thing on the road now. We'll do 2S and 3S. Let's go. The longer wheelbase should give us the stability that we were lacking in the 006. And the same electronics should give us the performance of the 006. So in theory, this should be better all around. I really want it to be, because it's quite a nice little machine. Right, here we go. It's nice to not have to worry about range too. Good enough. That's a lot better. Ooh, I like this now. Vastly more stable. I tried accelerating too hard then and it corrected. So now I'm being too heavy on the throttle, and it's controllable within limits. That's not bad at all. That's better. We just got 69 km/h on 2S, and it handles so much more nicely. It's a different machine now. We just needed to pull it apart a little and tweak a few things. All right, here we go. Oi! Well, here's your durability test. Just popped off a turnbuckle, which is great. You want things to pop off, not to snap. It recorded 69 then, we're going to stop it and start again. And I'll feed on the throttle a bit more slowly. Just got to true this steering a shade. There we go. All right, we need to be quick about it. Beautiful. It's lovely and smooth. The other nice thing is that it wasn't getting really hot, even after 2S like it did the other day, because we've fixed the issues, the friction issues. Gee whiz. If this was a shorter wheelbase, it wouldn't be stable. The ESC just cut out. That's all right. It was a full pull for a little while. Well, this is good for heat. Let's have a look at it. Firstly, speed. 87, that's better. The best I got out of this, out of the Rlaarlo, was 81. Now, that's rubbed a little, that's all right though. Now, heat. Oh, beautiful. So it's warm, but not hot. This thing had the poise and the stability that it didn't have when I did my review, and it doesn't have the noise that it had. It's lovely and quiet now. Everything about it is smooth. I'm so glad. And the heat. This is the other big thing to tell you. After those two, I did several pulls. I just had a bunch of fun with this thing. It was much more fun than my first run. I'm so pleased to tell you. If you're wondering which one to get, I know I wasn't too hot on this on my review, but I was basing it on my experience with the car. Now I can tell you this thing is beautiful. Get this instead of the 006. The extra wheelbase gives you that little bit of stability. It's about that much longer. But the little refinements they've made, from the heat sink on the motor to the separate ESC and vastly better radio system. It's a nice radio system now. The wheels are improved as well with the foams and the sway bars, which I don't think do a lot, but Rlaarlo did tell me they're looking at a bigger diameter sway bar. My experience with this now is such that I can wholeheartedly recommend it. I couldn't before, but now I can. Check the description for a link on where to get yours and where to have a look at the rest of the Rlaarlo range. My thanks to Rlaarlo for your patience in letting me work on this thing until I worked out what the problem was. And I hope you guys found something useful out of this. If yours is binding and slow and clunky like mine, it'll be just something minor because the hardware in there is good enough to support the claimed speed. You just need to maybe unlock it a little to get it to perform the way you want it to. Thanks for watching, throw me a like, and I'll catch you next time on RC-TNT.